What's really good, my people? Welcome into No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Big Nick the Quick with me. We're back. Took a week off last week. Big Nick the Quick was on the road traveling, man, getting to the Skrilla, packing up, getting to the bag, getting the dollar. So we had to skip last week. So, man, we're happy to be back. NBA playoffs. You already know what time it is. A ton of 2-2s all over the place. Who's 2-2, Nick? We got Celtics, Mavs, Phoenix Suns.
Everything except for Warriors and
everything
and Grizzlies.
And that was almost 2-2.
Should
have been 2-2.
Yeah.
So a lot of action going on. We're gonna touch on the games last night. Why Memphis plays so well without Ja? I kind of want to get Nick's opinion on that because they played really, really well last night. Collapsed down the stretch until they needed
to. Yeah. They played well. They played well until it mattered.
Yeah, exactly.
Which might poke some holes in everything that we were gonna say, but yeah.
Yeah, no, but I still think it's worth talking about. We'll talk about Philly getting back to 2-2 and Embiid's back. They look like a completely different team.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see what they look like in Miami. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Suns, Mavs. I'm very exposed on the Suns, so we got to talk about that. But stay locked, man. All NBA, all the time. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. We in here.
Now look at Mossy. Really? Oh, so that's how you're going to play it. You going to do this? Okay, fine. That's all I needed. That's all I needed for him to do that. And it became personal with me.
Big Nick the Quick.
How we feeling?
Man, I got to tell you a story real quick. I have this. Oh, you got the Tottenham on, G?
Yeah, of course, man. It's the derby. It's the derby this week.
It's North London Derby week. For those who don't know, man, I'm an Arsenal fan. Big Nick the Quick is a newly minted Tottenham. Is this your first Derby? Second?
No, it's the second. Remember the first one we watched at Adder's crib?
Yeah, he's a newly minted Tottenham fan. So we got a big match on Thursday, man. Arsenal trying to stay in the top four. Tottenham trying to clip us to get into that top four. So it's locked in, man. Get on. Nick has finally seen the light on the soccer, on the football tip.
Boy, have I ever? It's literally all I do. I think. Like, obviously, I watch the NBA, I watch the NFL, but other than that, I'm watching soccer videos on YouTube.
Have you watched the Maradona documentary yet?
No, not yet. I'm saving it for when I have like the 2 hours required to sit down. And,
you're fucking around.
But I might have watched everything else.
HBO. Oh man, it's so good. All right, my story. I found a chicken wing recipe for the air fryer, and
air fryer chicken wings
up the street. At this market down the street from my crib, they sell all flats. I'm eating chicken wings like, dude, it's despicable right now.
So they don't sell chicken wings. They just sell.
Oh no, they sell the best part of the chicken wing.
They sell part of the chicken wing. All flats. That's trash.
They sell the best part of the chicken wing.
Sean likes to go through a workout when he eats his chicken wing.
It's the best, dude. The flat is like better
me.
We
just grab the drummy's the best meat.
Less tendon.
Nah.
All that tendon and shit on the drum.
All that bone on the flat, man. You got to work through it. You're over here. People try to show you different techniques to eat the fucking wing. You know what I mean? If I need a how-to guide to eat my wing, I need the other kind. Just give me the drummies, man.
But listen, bro, I've been eating these, and I've been frying them hard in the air fryer, like 40 minutes in the air fryer. They come out crispy. Yeah. I got a little sauce I've been whipping up, little low fat, not a lot of butter, not a lot of oil, just a lot of tangy buffalo sauce. Man, shit's dangerous right now.
Dog, when you perfect your own wings, you almost never go get wings ever.
Dog,
again.
Real shit.
It's so easy to make your own shit at the crib. Like since I started making at the crib, I think I've been to Buff Joe's like one time. I think it's when you guys came over. It was just like, other than that, I can make it at the crib, man. And wings are expensive as shit at the restaurant, bro. Like they be trying to tax. I mean everything.
Everything is in shambles right now. I'm not gonna hold you. Like I was partly joking. We're like this summer, man. Be on your P's and Q's out in the street, man. I wouldn't be surprised if people are like doing a lot of wild ass shit just because everything is kind of upside down right now.
I took an Uber from O'Hare on Thursday night.
Yeah, you
for
texted
a work
me
trip.
that.
It was $90.
Yeah, I was talking to
$90.
bro. I went in. I don't even eat cereal, right? But I had a taste for some Smart Start.
Smart Start.
I fuck a Smart Start heavy.
$8
So I
a
went
box.
I went over to the store, and they didn't have Smart Start, so I was looking around. You know the small like Frosted Flakes box that
Yeah.
motherfucker get about 3 bowls in it.
The little joints.
The
Yeah.
little joint, bro, $6.75.
That's
bro.
crazy.
I couldn't believe it. I just like couldn't believe it, bro.
Yeah.
It was sick. So
it's wild. Yeah, I don't even know how folks are making it nowadays. Like,
no, for real. That's what I mean.
It's really crazy the price of shit. Like
It's
we were
egregious out
talking
here
about,
right
like, it's you got to make a decision whether you want to hop in the car or not because a trip might cost you $5.
now. No, facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Facts.
yeah. So it's crazy.
All right, let's get into it, man. NBA playoffs. You already know what time
Hey,
it is.
real quick, man. Next year, I decided that we got to hit the Miami Grand Prix. I don't care what I don't care what it costs us. I don't care what hoops we got to jump through. That shit look cracking.
Yeah, we probably should have been up there this year, honestly. But it
you said you tried to you inquired in this, so the ticket was
I
harder
do
than the
some
Super Bowl
work
ticket,
for
right?
the Hard Rock Sportsbook, man. I couldn't even. They laughed at me, bro. They was like, "Come on, dog.
Beat it.
Nah, you ain't got enough juice for that, sir."
Nah,
sorry.
That was funny. Yeah,
it was like apparently the hardest ticket to get out here.
Look, everybody was there. David Beckham's the mayor of Miami.
Yeah, man.
Apparently.
All right, let's get into Boston, Milwaukee. Unbelievable series.
Fun.
Go check out my Twitter. I dropped a little betting thread, you say, about just leveraging future spots. I've never been more confident about a series going 6 or 7 games than this one. And you were able to get plus money on both. Excuse me. And I sent out a thread about that. Go check that out. It's about leveraging futures. But this guy, Al Horford. Listen, bro. If you've been listening to No Catch Up for the last 4 or 5 years,
slanderous.
You know that I have not. I've called Al Horford a lot of stuff, and I think at some of the time it was probably warranted. Like he's a guy that does a little bit of everything very mediocrely, and he was making a lot of money in Atlanta and a lot of other spots. Right?
More slander on it. Calling out, he was not mediocre that first run in Boston. He was crazy. He was so good.
So we're back here now today. And he looked sensational. And the funniest part about the whole thing is he turned it on after Giannis dunked on him and then looked at him.
Yeah.
I thought that was the funniest part of the whole situation. But how'd you feel about the game last night? I thought at one point Milwaukee was getting ready to cruise, and Al Horford just wouldn't let him go down. And that's how it ended up shaking out. 116-108. Series now tied 2-2 going back to Boston.
Yeah, you know how we talk about games are usually games of runs? This was like a game of the opposite. It was like a game of droughts, right? It's like Milwaukee would go up by 8, then they couldn't score for 5 minutes, so the Boston would go up by 8, then they couldn't score for 5 minutes, and it was just kind of back and forth like that. Then you get to the fourth quarter, man. Al Horford had 16. I want to say Tatum had 14 in the fourth quarter. Those two guys were just playing crazy.
Timely big shots.
Yeah, huge shots, especially from Tatum down the stretch, man. Like he's just. He is fully, we talked about it before, but obviously he's fully taken on that number one role and really carries himself like a number one dude, right? Like even if he was struggling a little bit earlier in the game, he really got it going in the fourth. And Milwaukee, the biggest thing I saw from that game, like the glaring concern, is Milwaukee really, I know you don't want to hear it, really, really, really needs Middleton, because when it came down to it, they had nobody that could create their own shot. It was clear that Udoka, his defensive mandate was just crowd Giannis, right? If Giannis comes in the paint, throw 3 bodies at him. I don't care who we're pulling somebody off of. Leave the shooters open in the corner. It does not matter. But make it difficult is for Giannis, right? Same thing he did with KD. It's just like, look, we're not letting these guys beat us. Even if they get 30, it's going to be a difficult 30. And when that happened for Milwaukee in the fourth quarter, you got Giannis barreling into the lane. You got him settling for mid-ranges and threes. He's completely frustrated. And there's no one else to kind of take that pressure off. Like they desperately needed someone else who could take the ball and create. And while we all love Drew, he's best as like that third option, right? Like, so as much as you talk about Middleton, they desperately needed him because he is kind of like their fourth quarter guy who could take some of that pressure off Giannis, create his own shot, hit big shots, make big plays, kind of knows what to do in that moment. And they were lost. Their offense looked awful in the fourth quarter.
Well, let me say, I wouldn't go that far. I think Drew's the second best player on the team, and I think he could definitely be it too. He just had a bad game. I think, as we're going to talk about a lot of these games, I think at the end of the day,
I didn't say he can't be a 2, but he's better as a 3. It fits in perfectly for them, right? Like he plays well with Giannis and Middleton because he's in that number 3 role, but he can still give you 25, 30 points. But he's not doing what Middleton does out there.
I don't know, man. He took 30 shots the night before, and he took 22 last night. He just had a bad game. He shot it terribly. He was 5 of 22 from the floor last night.
This is not an anti Drew Holiday thing. I'm just saying that, yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I feel like still for them it works better with him as the third option and Middleton being that guy who you kind of go to in the fourth quarter down the stretch.
No thanks.
You watch how can you watch
the sentence of go to Middleton down the stretch of the fourth quarter just doesn't sit right with me. I want nothing to do with that. I would go to Giannis and Drew. Obviously you go to Giannis, but I would go to Drew.
You would bench Middleton in the fourth.
I would go to Drew before I went to Middleton to close the fourth quarter down the stretch in high pressure situations.
See how that worked out for them last night.
But this is the thing. I think because we're going to talk about Dylan Brooks and we're going to talk about that whole conversation that was going on last night, and I think sometimes guys just have bad games and you just got to leave it at that. Yeah. Like Drew Holiday, J-Rue, my guy J-Rue, Drew Holiday had a bad game last night. Simple as that. I don't think it needs to be overanalyzed.
And without Middleton, if he has a bad game, they're fucked. They got nobody else.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That is true.
I mean, you're playing big minutes to Wes Matthews, Grayson Allen. Like, you're asking these guys to do a lot more than they're equipped to do. Like,
I think too.
They desperately needed a shot creator down the stretch, and they did not have one.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Listen, let me just put this whole Middleton thing to bed for me. I think he's extremely inconsistent, but he's a good player. He's a solid wing, both way guy. Like, he can get you, like you said, he's a guy you could dump him the ball in the wing. He could face up and get you a shot. Yep. And Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen and those guys aren't going to. And
can't do that.
Bobby Portis can do it and is willing to do it, but he's not as efficient and is good at it as Chris Middleton.
He's kind of hot,
especially at the offensive end. Exactly, I get it, but I just think Chris is extremely. The whole hate for me for Chris is it goes back to just like him signing a huge deal and not being and playing very, very mediocre basketball for long stretches. AKA like the entire his what is he 17? He's a 17, 5 and 4 guy. Like
no, he's not. 20 is like 23, 24 points. Stop it.
No. Hold on. For his career, he's less than a dub. I'm telling you right now.
The last like 5 years, he's been over 20 points a game.
That's what I'm talking. So like whatever.
He's a scorer. He can score. But I know I get where you're coming from on that. I mean, yeah, he's overrated, but it's not what you know, it's who you know, and he knows Giannis, and that has worked out very well for him in his career. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not going to sit here and act like he hasn't played that part well. He was the second best player on an NBA championship team last year.
He probably
maybe
third,
maybe third, whatever. He was a key crucial guy
a
for the NBA championship. Yeah. He averaged 20 this year. He's a 20-point per game scorer.
Yeah, he's a 20. But it's like 17 and a half. It's like 18.
It's not a real 20 for you. It's a discount. It's a watered down 20.
It's watered down.
You know, watered down 20. Okay.
So, but
it's on a scale grading. Gotcha. It's on a curve.
True point per game.
His 20's on a curve.
But this is the other thing too is, man, Boston plays D so well where stuff really starts to get exposed, right? So if Giannis,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, it's funny because these offensive fouls start to roll together and start to stack up. When one happens, it almost seems like all the other contacts look like offensive fouls. But if the first couple are blocks, then everything is called a block. It almost seems like it's very like it gets Giannis very tentative too. Have you ever? This is the thing. When they're calling offensive fouls, watch Giannis go to the. You only see this with Giannis, and you've only seen it with teams that kind of bottle him up a little bit. Is he'll go to the basket and he bumps into people and there's no whistle, and then everyone kind of stops and he's like, "Oh shit, there's no whistle. Like, let me go do something."
Yeah.
He's like expecting an offensive foul when I don't know in the last quarter and a half he's got called for 2 or 3 of them. He's like bumping into people and he's like, are they going to call that one? Or are they going to call that one? And it throws off him mentally and just the whole flow of his game, because now when he's coming down on and he crosses half and then crosses the free throw line, he is kind of second guessing like, man, should I go to the cup full go or should I look to get this out of my hands so I don't pick up an offensive foul?
No, 100%. And I think that, and that's just him as a player, but also a lot of that is the defense that the Celtics are playing on him. And I got to give, I said it at the end of the year, he was my coach of the year. And if you look in the playoffs, there's no coach, in my opinion, that's done a better job in the playoffs than Udoka. His defensive strategies and his commitment to him. And that's what we talked about with Nurse that year. They took out Giannis, right? Like everybody can say we want to build the wall, but you got to commit to it. You got to have the stomach to leave shooters open, right? You got to have the stomach to put 3 guys on one guy. And it sounds good, right? It sounds good, but you got to be able to commit to that. And if you look what Boston was doing, there was one play, Giannis goes down. He's got Smart, Horford, and Tatum on him. And they're all just swatting at the ball. He doesn't know what to do. So you're kind of forcing him. And like you said a good word with Giannis. It's that rhythm, that flow, right? Like as much power and all that is in his game, he is very much like a rhythm and flow player. Like if he's getting calls, if the lane is opening up for him, if guys are backing off, he's kind of in that flow of I'm taking it down there every single time and I'm going to punish you. But if you're making it difficult, right, if you're making him think twice, if you're making him think block or charge, if you're making him think how many guys are going to come at me, if you're making him think, do I got to make a play or do I got to score, he gets flustered because he's just not used to it because most teams aren't going to play him that way. Just like KD last series. No one ever thought to play KD like that because it's just like, no, this dude's going to destroy us, right? But it's like, no, we commit to that for 4 games for the entire series, and guys just get worn down. They get frustrated. They start making mistakes. And with Milwaukee, he really is betting on the fact that there's no one else there to beat us, right? There's no one else there to beat us. Like, yeah, Drew Holiday needs to put the ball up 30 times. Great. That's fine. We will go down like that every single time, right? We'll go down with them relying on Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen. But what we're not going to do is allow Giannis to go for 50, to get to the free throw line 25 times, to start building up this confidence and to play scared. So I love their commitment to that on the defensive end, man. I mean, they're playing the game slower. I love watching them play D, man. Like they just swarm on defense. And it starts with Smart. And the Horford thing is brilliant. Like empower Al Horford, right? Like it's brilliant. I love it, man.
Well, it's he could just bring anybody all over the floor.
Grant Williams, like these guys, right? Like also that's another thing. It's like, hey, we didn't have any size last night. We're getting bullied on the boards. Instead of trying to manufacture size, fuck it. Throw Grant Williams in there. He's a dog. He might be 6'4", but he's gonna go at Giannis. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're riding with. And we know on the offensive end we got Tatum and we'll be all right.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing. They have more options on offense, and they're playing great team defense.
Yep.
And if Drew Holiday is going to go 5 of 22,
great.
Then listen, if Drew Holiday is going to go 5 for 22, Giannis can score 50, and they're going to lose.
Yeah,
so
lose.
That's
where the Middleton thing really, and that's where Middleton was just glaring last night that they did not. And I don't care if it's Middleton, I don't care whoever it is, just another guy
that could shoot it and score.
Who doesn't rely on Giannis creating for him. You know what I'm saying? And like that's kind of where they were. And it's just a bunch of guys waiting for Giannis to create. And you see these offenses, you see it all the time in the NBA, these offenses that just go stagnant at the end of the game. And that's kind of what happened. Again, it wasn't like Boston outplayed them for 4 quarters. From out of the game, Milwaukee was outplaying them. But it was just you'd go on these dry spells of offense and the other team would catch up.
It's a fascinating series because you can make a case for each side, right? So, like, for example, Milwaukee's flat out won game 1, no problem.
Yeah.
Like they took care of business, did their thing. If you go back to game 3, you can say Boston collapsed in the 4th and they ended up and Milwaukee squeaked one out at home with the whole tip at the end of the game
and the questionable calls.
Questionable calls, right? But then you could say, hey, the Milwaukee got one in Boston, and then that was, they eked one out. And then last night, now it kind of the narrative can be, well, now Boston gets a win in Milwaukee, and the night before probably could have got the win too. So this is it could just go back and forth. I think this series is going to go 7.
Yeah,
I think it's this is what we always talk about as well. Hey, you don't want to go out in the regular season and go get the 1 or the 2 seed for the regular season? Okay. Go to Boston and play 2 of the next 3 in Boston, and you got to win 2 of them to get out of the round. Like that's what it is if you don't want to go out and try to get the 1 or the 2 seed in the regular season.
And I do think the winner of this series represents the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. Like, I think this is the Eastern Conference Finals. And no disrespect to Philly and Miami, but it's just I think that these 2 teams are a cut above.
Yeah. You think Milwaukee as well right now, even without Middleton?
Yeah, I think so. Because they have the best player in the playoffs, arguably. Yeah. So I think that always matters, right? And they have that quote unquote overused term of championship DNA and all that stuff. But like, yeah, I think so. I've thought that all year. And the Middleton injury, obviously, that matters. And we hope he comes back for the next series. But it's a knee injury, and I haven't heard anything about him even doing anything. They said he was doing light stuff yesterday, right? Or
they said he's doing light stuff, but
this know. This is a knee.
Forget about light. This is the Boston Celtics.
Exactly, Boston Celtics. Exactly.
Right. And then it might be the Miami Heat. So like, ain't no treading water.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that these are the 2 teams that are clearly the class of the Eastern Conference. So this is why, it's a 7-game series, man. You hit it right in the head because there's no advantage. Right, it's no like, oh, momentum is now swinging this way. It's like, no, each game, like you take one, we take one, you take one, we take one.
Yep.
And why we lost, there's a bunch of reasons. Why you won, there's a bunch of reasons, and vice versa.
Yep, exactly.
There's no advantage or nothing that someone can't solve. I thought yesterday watching that game, I was like, oh, without Time Lord, Boston just has no size. They can't grab rebounds, and they're just going to bully them on the boards. And we talk about all the time, you can't win that rebounding battle. You can't win the ball game.
With
but
Lopez
somehow,
down there too, yeah.
Yeah, somehow Boston overcame that, right? So, I mean, again, there's no real advantage that you can point to because you could point to the Middleton injury. But look, Milwaukee's won 2 games without Middleton, right? One of them, so, I mean.
Exactly.
There's no advantage on either side in this series. So,
but I will say this: this is the spot where it's like, damn, I wish we could have won a couple more games in the regular season because now we got to go to Boston 2 of the next 3, and it's going to be ugly in there.
That's why you can't bullshit these regular seasons, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's going to be ugly in there.
Yeah, you start exactly. This is because tomorrow night you regret it. You're like, oh shit,
you're like, fuck, man.
We won a couple games that could have been at the crib. We could have maybe. They couldn't have won any more games to not see Milwaukee because they were the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But you could have won some games at that advantage for sure.
So we don't have to go 2 of the next 3 because it's almost like it feels like the next game is a must win now.
Right.
Because like, man, it'll be tough for them to win 2 games in a row with Game 7 be in Boston.
In Boston.
Without Middleton, without that type of, you know what I mean? It'll be tough. So this is where you wish it's like, I wish I had a couple more W's during the regular season, and we could have been at the crib.
What do you for Milwaukee? Like what does Giannis have to just like what does Giannis do at this point?
Nothing. He doesn't. This is what I think needs to happen. He doesn't change anything. He continues to go to the basket on full tilt mode. He makes them call. He needs to make them call. He needs to make Marcus Smart and Grant Williams continue to take amazing charges. And when they collapse, he's Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen are going to have to shoot lights out. And Drew Holiday is going to be able to have to get to the cup and get easy floaters and knock down his shots. If he needs to be hitting like 10, 11, 12 field goals. In the last 2 games, he's taken 52 shots. Giannis has taken 64. Like, they're the only 2 guys getting shots up. So he needs to continue to do what he's doing, knock down his free throws. I think it would also help him a lot if right now Boston would let Giannis take any jump shot he wants
always
with a 5, 6, 7 foot radius. But not
Van Gundy was having a heart attack about this last night. He goes, "These 3-pointers are wasted possessions. Boston said take as many as you want."
But there was a stretch, and there has been stretches this year and in the playoffs last year where they had to respect it a little bit because he was knocking down jumpers left and right.
I would let him shoot it all he wants to. He's never going to be consistent enough to where it's gonna alter what you're trying to do. If anything, Van Gundy was right. It takes them more out of what they're trying to do than you out of what you're trying to do.
Sure, and there's no one down there to rebound.
He's a 30% free throw 3-point shooter.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but there's been stretches where you'd have to respect Giannis. Like right now, they can't wait for him to shoot the ball, so that would help him as well.
Just don't come to the paint. That's it.
Yeah,
don't come into the paint. You can say if I'm Udoka, I'm saying let him shoot as many. I don't care if he's 8 for 8. Let him shoot as many threes as he wants because he will never consistently beat us that way. Plus, the more if he starts hitting them and he starts thinking, "Oh, today's my day to shoot," that keeps him out the paint. And that's your biggest concern. Hey, let's keep him out the lane. Fine. You don't want to come down here. You want to stay out there and shoot. That is awesome. We don't have to commit 3 guys to the paint to stop you.
Yeah, it was a great game last night. It was 11 and 8 turnovers. Milwaukee had less turnovers, cleared up the offensive glass by 9 rebounds. They had 9 more offensive boards, and they still lost almost by double digits to close the lead. The fourth quarter, they collapsed.
Yeah.
And Giannis was starting to get a little frustrated. But, yeah, that's what I would say. I would say he needs to continue being Giannis and doing what he does and then try to get Connaughton and the rest of those guys more shots. They need to take more shots.
Yeah.
Brook Lopez was the 3rd leading field goal attempts player on the team. He had 11. So they just got to get those guys more shots.
Yeah, I keep saying Middleton, but the truth is he's not coming back. So Wes Matthews played 29 minutes, 5 shots. Grayson Allen played 29 minutes, 7 shots. Yeah.
They just got to get more. They're just going to have to get more shots and more looks, and they're going to have to knock them down. They're going to have to lean on those guys. Giannis is going to get his 35. But, that's not enough. It is what it is. And similar to we'll get to with Phoenix and Luka. Man, I would let Luka score 60.
Well, that's what Jason Kidd's kind of saying. He's like, look, Luka, you guys need to step the fuck up.
I would literally, if I was Phoenix, we'll get to that. Yeah. But you want to talk about that right now? Actually, you want to get to Memphis and Ja real quick?
Let's go to Memphis.
Okay, yeah. Warriors get the win last night, but they were in dire straits. Deep in the second quarter, they only had 30 points.
Yeah.
Memphis was playing amazing D across the board throughout the entire game.
I thought.
Go ahead.
I'll give one quick thing though on this, and this kind of ties into no Ja and just maybe how he coaches without Ja. But going into this series, right? Steven Adams had played outside of Game 1 in the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Timberwolves. Steven Adams had played 13 minutes in the entire playoffs, right? Last night he gets what? 30 plus minutes, right? He obviously features him last night.
27 minutes.
Yeah, 27 minutes. And I just thought it was interesting that his response to no Ja was, I'm going to play Steven Adams 30 minutes and just try to bully them with size, which was working for most of the game, right? If we want to talk about how this game went, the Warriors really swung it in the last, 8-9 minutes of the game, right? And we're able to kind of get that advantage back on their side. And Memphis didn't really have anybody to kind of answer for them. But if you look what Memphis' strategy was, we're just going to go big. We're going to play bully ball. We're going to play Triple J and Steven Adams at the same time. We're going to control the glass. We're going to play physical. And, yeah, we don't have Ja Morant, but we can still bring it to you. So maybe that just kind of speaks to the mentality that they have and the way that they try to play without Ja, knowing that, hey, look, we're losing that 25 to 30 points on offense that we've been getting. And that pace. So we're just going to try to play a more physical brand of basketball. And that was clearly the plan last night. Again, you have a guy who you have not played in the first 2 series, right? Maybe he clogs the lane for Ja, all these other things, whatever. It's just not a good matchup. But now you don't have Ja, and you say, fuck it. He's still one of our better players. I'm going to get him minutes, and this is the strategy I'm going to go with. And the Warriors seem miffed. Like they didn't really know what to do.
They did seem miffed. Yeah,
we can't get our dribble drives off. Every time we go on the lane, this guy Adams is here about that. They're grabbing offensive rebounds. They're playing more physical than us. And if you look at the Warriors, they don't have any size, right? They got Draymond is their big. They got who's my man's that
Kuminga,
who's only really like 6'8". He's a rookie. They don't have any size, and they didn't really have
and Looney.
And Looney, who seems to have been there for like 15 years. Outside of that, they have no size, and that's not even real size. And I just think that Memphis is Taylor. Shout out our boy Taylor Jenkins. His game plan of just going big, playing bully ball, getting physical, and trying to knock them off their rocker worked for 3.5 quarters. It's just you didn't have anybody that could close down the game for you at the end when you really needed some buckets, and you kind of let Steph start doing his thing.
Yeah, it was another fourth quarter. They both shot it from three really poorly, 25%. Both
terrible.
teams.
The Warriors didn't hit their first three until 10 minutes in the second.
Yeah, they started like 0 of 10 or 0 of 11 or something like that. So, yeah, I think you're right. That's a great way to put it. Is they were miffed when I was watching it. They couldn't knock anything down, and then they just like couldn't figure out how to knock something down. It was like, all right, let's just try to get Steph going or something. Like we can't do anything here. Seems like nothing's falling. I think the biggest takeaway for me was you hit it on the head. They were really physical. They were going to play D. They were going to rebound. They were going to slow the pace down and just try to
really
grind out. Just really try to grind out a W.
Yep.
And it was working until they had to tap some dudes to make like a couple possessions where we need a bucket here.
Someone needs to score.
Someone needs to score. And they didn't have anyone to go to. They tried to go to Triple J. They tried to go to Dylan Brooks, or Dylan Brooks tried to go to himself.
Triple J. Dylan Brooks dribbling off his foot, all types of shit. He was
Dylan
really
Brooks went to himself, called his own number. But hey, I think we talked about this last week. I think Dylan looked around and was kind of like,
somebody's got to do it.
Someone's got to score, or someone's got to take the shot.
Right.
So like, I guess I'll be the one to do it.
And he hit one late. He hit a big three late. Yeah.
Yeah, now like we could talk about if they're good shots or if they're bad shots or could he have gotten a better look. But I think at the end of the day, I think Desmond Bane is hurt. It's very obvious to me that something is not right.
Between round 1 and round 2,
I think it's hilarious, man. This is how bad Utah's D is. Like Bane is literally back his shot. He cooked them for like 28 a game. And yeah, it's just, man. So Desmond Bane is hurt. Dylan Brooks is not that guy clutch enough and can get you, the buckets that you need.
Love his attitude, love his confidence, love the dog in him. Like, hey, look, he was there to take those shots last night, to your point. Like, he looked around and said, hey, look, I'm going to put it up 19 times, and that is what it is. But yeah, he just wasn't able to do it. But the Triple J thing, I mean, I know you were going crazy about that because the two most important possessions at the end of the game somehow ended up with Triple J out of the perimeter against Draymond.
Yeah. And not I said Utah. I meant the Grizzlies.
You meant the Grizzlies.
I mean, I meant Minnesota. The
Timberwolves.
Yeah. But yeah, D Bane was playing really well then, and it seems like he's just doesn't have it. It kind of looks like Zach LaVine, actually, to me. It's like he's out there. And he could get you a jumper if he gets a really good look. But, like, if you're leaning on him to create some offense, he just health-wise.
That was the Seamus moment of the podcast.
Health-wise, he just can't get it done at the moment. So it's tough, man.
They're you know what, man? Like, and they're grinding, man. Like, and I think again, like, why do they play like this without Ja? That's just how they play. They I don't think that when Ja's out, a lot of teams when their guys out are looking at each other like, yeah, it's a wrap. It's over with, right? Yeah. Like, I truthfully believe that when Ja's out, and their record backs it up, right? They should feel this way because they were really good without him this year. They're not looking around like, oh fuck, man, we're cooked, right? Like they're saying, hey, we can still win this. And then he puts together a game plan that, like, look, it wasn't on coaching, man. He put together a game plan that they could win with. You said the key thing. They slowed the game down. They slowed the game down crazy.
Tremendously,
It was like 60 points halfway through the third. You know what I mean? Like, really slowed it down, really went physical, really went with size, and, like, tried to, like, we're going to grind out a W, but at some point, I need someone to score some points. I need someone to produce on the offense for us, or at least be somewhat of a threat. And they just didn't have it. So it wasn't for lack of coaching. And it's really not one where you could be like, oh, Memphis, yeah, they blew it, but it's just like they just didn't have that. You didn't have enough down the stretch. And it was very, very clear, especially when you're going against Steph, who, look, Steph was really good down the stretch, but he was also just shooting everything. Because it's almost like they knew we're going to get the ball back and get another attempt.
Eventually, some of these are going to start falling.
Eventually, the law of averages is going to say, even on an off night, I'm going to hit some of these, right? So, like, and it's also going to say that we're going to get the ball back because they can't do anything on offense. So, to your point, you hit that perfectly. The Warriors down at the end of the game will just give it to Steph, and eventually some shit's going to happen. Yeah. Clay hit his big shot coming out the ATO. But yeah, and on the other end, Memphis just had nothing, man. They had nobody who could go out there and get that bucket. Dylan Brooks was ice cold, and you're trying to do way too much for Triple J. So
yeah, they outscored them 39-29 in the fourth. But yeah, you need that guy to go to. Like, all right, this is Ja time, and they didn't have him. And Triple J was already shooting it poorly throughout the whole game. And then in the fourth, they were trying to get something off. I'll say this, man. That Draymond contest on the Triple J 3 is probably a foul, for being honest.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at that attempt, it's still a terrible attempt.
Terrible.
I don't like the
He didn't need to go for that shot at all.
And the possession before that, they've been doing this all game. They were slowing down the pace. They grinded out the clock. They ran out the clock. And then with 10 seconds left at the 3-point line, threw it to Triple J on a one-on-one versus Draymond Green. Just fucking throw the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because that's not a bucket coming anytime soon unless Draymond fouls him. But you don't want to put Triple J on the wing and tell him to get a basket, a big time pressure spot against Draymond Green.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really tall task and a tough ask for him. And as we saw, it didn't come through. So they just needed someone at the end of the day to just close the door, and they didn't have it. So I think this series is all tucked away. They're going to tuck this away in 5.
Yeah, that is over with.
Which is interesting because then they'll get a little extra rest, and then I think Phoenix still comes out of Dallas. But if it goes 7, they beat each other up a little bit. Meanwhile, Golden State's at the crib chilling in San Fran. It always helps to get a couple extra days, especially for guys like Clay, Steph,
Draymond.
Yeah, Clay played really bad last night too.
He's played really bad a lot recently.
What do you think? It's just still getting.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
all the way locked in. Just
he's played a couple
years,
5 months of NBA basketball at this point. So you would think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I get he sat out a long time, but it's not like Clay just came back last week. I mean, he came back to game like 20, right? So I mean, he's been back. He's had and he plays a lot, and he's back into his regular role. I think he's just kind of off. Yeah, I don't know. I said it when he got hurt, though. I was like, everybody's talking like he's just gonna come back and be all good. I'm like, yo, listen, like the game. He's also not a young guy either. He's like 32 years old, man. Listen, man, like the shit. It's a little bit different. But again, he's still Clay, right? He's still Clay. You still have to respect it. You can't. If I'm an opposing coach, I'm not playing Klay Thompson any differently.
More of the alarming thing for me is the defensive side of the rock because
he's getting
Clay used to really lock up.
Yeah, he doesn't.
You could leave
anymore.
Clay on an island, and he was one of the best defenders in the NBA. And
he's just a guy over there now.
He's just a guy now.
Just a guy.
The legs, the lateral movement and stuff is not there like it used to be. So the jumper will fall. That will come around. I am worried about the defensive side of the rock because he's just not as good as he used to be. And he was kind of getting exposed a little bit last night, at least earlier on in the game when Memphis was winning.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, I don't want to use the word luck, but like they struck gold on Jordan Poole. Without Jordan Poole, this team is not even close to what we're seeing right now. Like having that third and at this point second guy, right? Because he is there. If we talk about
on
Clay
offense,
struggling, he is their second guy on offense. And Wiggins even played decent last night. But he is their second guy on offense, and having him being able to take the pressure off, hit big shots. I know he didn't play great last night, but he had a huge bucket on that Wiggins block when Wiggins blocked and then Wiggins tapped it to him and he came down and he did some little magic with his hands and went behind the back and all that. Like that was a huge bucket, right? So having that guy there and to take that pressure off of Steph and to be a threat and to be able to go for 30 and know he can go for 30 is huge for Golden State. Like that is a massive development as far as a guy developing into what he is right now. Because that's
it's right on time. They needed another guy.
They really needed another guy,
and he's now available.
Yeah.
He's available, as they say.
Yep.
All right, let's go over to the games tonight. We got 76ers in the Heat, 6:30 TNT, 6:30 Central Standard.
I don't know what to believe.
2-2. Is it fool's gold, Nick? That's my first question.
You
is it
texted me the other day
gold?
after game 2. You're like, "Hey, is Miami going to win the championship?"
Not like, wait a second here, bro. Like they look super locked. But this is your classic. No one's won a road game yet. Yep. Joel Embiid shows up, and they play 2 games at home. One of them, James Harden scores 30 plus, and he hasn't scored 30 plus in 6 weeks. And Danny Green is Larry Bird.
Who?
Danny, three-time champion, Danny
Three-time
Green,
NBA champion, Danny Green. You bite your tongue.
3-time NBA champ, 3X.
3X.
Danny Green,
3 of them.
3X.
3. Hold on. Remember me?
Yes. He turns into a complete sniper, which comes from, Joel being there, spreading the floor, doing all that.
And let's be honest, this is what Danny Green does from time to time.
Yes, he does.
He will have these games. He's talking about inconsistent, like he's a model of inconsistency. But Danny Green, if Danny Green's feeling it, he will 100% let that bitch fly, and he'll have these type of games. He only had 11, but it seemed like he had 25. You know what I mean? Like, so this is what Danny Green does.
I think he's missed like 2 threes the last 2 games, and he's taken like 13 or something crazy.
That's
so
what he does.
Yeah. Where are you at on the series? Like I said, to me, it looks like Miami took care of business at home.
Yep.
Then Philly went home and got one of the best players in the NBA, top 3 player in the NBA back.
Yep.
Top 5 player in the NBA back, wherever you want to rank him. And then they won 2 games at home with their other star player scoring 30 and their snipers shooting the ball, and Tobias Harris playing really well. So they got 2. Now it's back to Miami for game 5. What do you think?
Yeah, Miami Heat are a team effort, man. So like, if they're not, if the other guys aren't doing their jobs, it doesn't matter if Jimmy has 40. It doesn't matter if Adebayo has 21. You can't have Hero coming out here with 11. You can't have Kyle Lowry coming out here with 6. You can't even have Strus coming out here with 6. And
Kyle Lowry's hurt, by the way.
Kyle Lowry's very, very hurt.
I don't think he should suit up.
Doesn't look like he should be there at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's just tough, man. When you're and Hero is really kind of like their X factor. He's kind of like their barometer, right? Like they need Hero going out there, getting 20 plus, getting the crowd going, kind of playing that villain, kind of playing that role that he likes to play, because we laugh at the antics and all that, but like that shit matters. Like that attitude, that energy that he kind of brings to the game 100% matters, right? When he hits some of these big shots or makes some of these big plays, he can kind of be a momentum shifter. But when he has games like the other night, he's going 1 for 5 from 3 and just looks like he just doesn't have it. Again, it doesn't matter if Butler goes for 40. If you look at Miami, man, like they're deep with versatility, but they're not necessarily deep with scorers, right? Like they got a bunch of different guys that can do a lot of different things and really cause havoc for you on the defensive end, but they do need their scorers to score, right? It's not like we can just go, hey, we got the 5th guy, he's going to come and step up, right? Like they're not even playing Duncan Robinson, some of these other guys. They really need their guys to step up, and the way that their program is set up is that Hero comes off the bench and gives you 20 to 25 points. Like that, their game plan is set up for that, and when that doesn't happen, they struggle. And again, it doesn't matter if Jimmy's giving you 40. You need those Hero points. You need those Strus buckets. You need these other guys to kind of come up and step in and kind of play their role. And when they don't do that, you have games like the other night. Add that with the fact that, James Harden, and we can talk about that. Look, I think James said it best after the press conference. I was just hitting shots. James was not hitting shots. He just could not make a shot. We talked about his jumper looked broke. His jumper looked flat. I don't think this was some like ultra aggressive version of James. I think as the game got on in the 4th quarter, he was a little bit more aggressive, but it's not like he's shot the ball 30 times or anything like that, right? He's been taking the same shots that he's been taking. They just finally went in the other night. So on one hand, I'm encouraged. On the other hand, I'm not like, oh, he's back, because it's not like it's some ultra aggressive guy who I think that ultimately that they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it was the same shots. They were just kind of going in, which is what he told you after the press conference. Hey, it's taking the same shots. But it's still not this, hyper, alpha 25, 30 shot attempt James Harden that we were used to in Houston and all that. So I think that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah,
but really, yeah.
To go back to Miami, I think Jimmy Butler saw that, what you were saying. He's like, man, I'm going to have to score a lot of points here. Like, these guys aren't – these guys –
don't have it.
Strus doesn't have it. Hero looks like he's struggling a little bit. I'm going to have to go out here and get 35, 40. And that's exactly what he did last night. It's still, or the other night, still wasn't enough. How about this? Miami is the most team-oriented squad left. They need a lot of people to contribute in multiple different ways for them to win. And if they don't get that, they're going to have a hard time. And that's what's happened the last 2 games in Philly. Like, there's a lot of other teams in the league that are left in the playoffs where you can lean on certain guys to do a lot of stuff. They need contributions from almost 6 or 7 deep in Miami, especially, like you said, on the offensive end, for them to win and compete. And
in their
they
defense,
haven't got that the last couple games.
In their defense, like, it sounds like, well, that's kind of a weird strategy, but it's like, and more often than not, they get that, right? Like, that it works. If you watch them, it works. You have these different role players come up and do their thing. And I even texted you the other night. Did they just have Vic just sitting on ice? Because at times he's looked awesome for them, right? But it's like, when you really look at it and we look at scoring, they're not flush with scorers like that, dude. They're flush with versatility and guys who can do a lot of different things and make life difficult for you in a lot of different ways. But it's not like you start going down the line, it's like, Jimmy can score, Bam can score, Tyler can score, and then after that it gets kind of like, okay, we need to manufacture buckets here. We're gonna out hustle you, we're gonna outwork you, we're gonna have a smarter game plan than you, right? We're gonna out execute you. But it's not necessarily we're gonna come in here and fucking just hang 140 on you. I mean, they don't. I think pace-wise, they're one of the slower-paced teams in the NBA. Yeah. Right? Like, they do really look to kind of grind it out and keep the game in the 100s and the 110s, as opposed to trying to get up to 120, 130. So
what do you think about Duncan Robinson? You got to give him a run, or
what do you think? If you didn't play him the other night, I can't see when he's going to play him. Like, he's really committed to not
maybe at home in a little comfy environment at the crib.
You needed buckets the other night, and you didn't throw him in the game. I get. Are they worried about him on James? What is it, defensive?
That's what I was going to ask you. Of course, it's defensively.
I want to know. Yeah, but I just want to know. Like, are you that worried? Like, are you worried like that? Hey, James might see Duncan, his eyes get big, and then all of a sudden that's all he needs to get.
And then
going,
James turns into Houston James.
Yeah. Because I'm just trying to figure out the other night when Hero's struggling. It's like, all right, let's give Duncan some burn. But it's almost like he told him, you're not playing this series, and that's kind of that.
I don't even think Spoelstra needs to do that. I think he just is not looking. He just doesn't think he'll make an impact. Okay. Well, first of all,
27
if you go back to the regular season, Duncan didn't shoot it that well all year. He was kind of struggling the entire season. So maybe his confidence in Duncan all of a sudden waking up in the playoffs and shooting lights out and then being a liability on the other end is not there. But I think you have to give him some type of a look.
Will he shoot well enough to make up for his defensive liability?
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the name of the game. Yeah. If you're out there and you could shoot that, if you can shoot that thing 55%, 50%, then yeah, go ahead. Give up twos on the other end and knock down threes on the other, right?
He's no Reggie Bullock.
He's no Reggie Bullock. He's no Dorian Finney-Smith.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
So, but those guys are long and play D.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. So, Bullock, those guys, they have value on the other end of the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at, take out Brunson, if you look at Dallas's roster, everybody's 6'9".
Yeah. That's what Kid wants.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's where it gets a little tough. That's where it's different with Duncan. But I'd be interested to see.
I would have played him the other night.
Put it like this. It'll be interesting to see if he plays him for say 12 minutes in the first half, right?
Just kind of see.
Just to see what happens. 10 minutes in the first half and see. And if he's getting just exposed, I think it's tough now for Duncan too, because say you do enter him in the lineup, right? you feel kind of wild pressure to make an impact because he's obviously doesn't believe I can make an impact. He hasn't played me in the last, I don't even know the last time he played. And then you slot me now because you're looking for a spark. Now I got to give you a spark. And if I don't give you the spark you're looking for, I'm back buried on the bench.
I'm super buried on the bench.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting spot for Duncan to be getting DMPs. We're not, I'm talking DMPs, not like
straight
8
DMPs.
minutes.
Yeah.
You feel me?
I think the minutes that he did get in this series were like victory or like like human cigar minutes, like in game 2. I think he played a couple minutes when they were up 20. But yeah.
It's like these are DMPs.
I would have went to him last game, and I would see. I don't know though. At the same time, it's like it's not like if you're Spoelstra, you have so much confidence in the plans that you put together that maybe you don't change that, right? Like maybe if you decided in the beginning of this series when you looked at it and you said Duncan Robinson doesn't give us the best chance to win, and through the first 2 games that appear to be working for you, you might not let the last 2 games kind of change your course. Or maybe you do because you are good at making adjustments. So I think that's also an interesting part of it too. Or if he's committed to not playing Robinson, he might not feel like anything has changed from game 3 and 4. And might still go back to those same 8 that he had, 9 that he had that doesn't include Duncan, because that same advantage still, or whatever it is that you didn't like about him, it's still there.
Well, or do you make your adjustments around defensively trying to figure out Joel and maybe have these guys? They were 16 of 33 from 3 the other night. Like maybe he's just like, yep, they shot it lights out at their gym. We'll try to clean that up when we get back home to Miami and see what happens. There's a possibility where Duncan hasn't even crossed his mind.
Yeah.
Like he's, you know what I'm saying? There could be a spot where it's like, I don't know if Spoelstra's thinking, man, we lost that game last night because I didn't give Duncan any run. Like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's probably not thinking that. He's probably looking at some other things that got in the way. So
it's interesting. But this is the thing, though. Like, Spoelstra and Riley are fucking here, right? Yep. Like, they had to have confidence in him to give him that deal. They had to know they were going to be in the play. Like, like, what's changed? I know he had a bad game or a bad year. He wasn't playing as well as he had in the previous, but he played in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
He played in the bubble.
Yeah.
So
some that they saw, some that they don't like, something about this matchup.
Something they don't like right now about
Philly,
Duncan.
In Philly, we don't like Duncan. We don't want Duncan.
What do you think? I mean, you think he gets minutes in Miami?
I don't think so. I think Spo commits to what he's been doing.
Even with the Joel change.
Yeah, I think he commits to what he's been doing. I really do.
I mean, they had.
I think it's more what you. I think it's more what you just said. Where I don't think he's sitting there being like, "Oh yeah, I got to go to Duncan." Like like
yeah.
I think he's sitting there. I think he's sitting there more. How do I get Kyle? How do I get Tyler? What can I get from Vic? And it's clearly like, look, he'd rather play Oladipo than Duncan.
I think that's. If we're being honest, that's probably a big reason why Duncan has no minutes. Oladipo is eating up all those. Yeah,
Oladipo can play D. He can handle the ball. Oladipo can do a lot, right? And even at 70%, you're not asking him to be Indiana Vic. You just need him to be a good basketball player, and he has been for them in a couple games here. So, I think that's really what it is. Oladipo is not as much a liability defensively as Duncan, and we can't afford to have defensive liabilities against a team that does have a lot of guys who can get the ball in the basket. I mean, you look, Harden, Embiid, Jake, what's buddy, J. Cole?
Oh, Tobias,
Maxey, like these guys can score.
I think Tobias is the key to a lot of their stuff, man. If they get good games out of him, and Joel is Joel, which he always is every single night
Tobias
he plays.
Is such a if.
And then James is solid and is distributing the rock. They're really good.
Yeah, but they don't do that consistently. The other night, Tobias only had 13. Like, Tobias is a big if.
Yeah, 100%.
He's a big if.
100%. Yeah. Then Maxey, I don't know, man. They got it's interesting. Like, I could see them going to Miami and literally winning both games. I could see them losing both games. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's gonna go 1-1-1, but the next 2 games, like, I could see it going either way. Yeah. This series is really interesting. This is probably my second favorite series after Boston and Milwaukee, just because It's a lot of guys I like to watch, and it's a lot of storylines that are interesting. But we'll close it. Let's get out of here on Suns Mavs, man. You know where we're at on the Suns, or at least people know where I'm at on the Suns.
I don't know, man. Didn't you call? Did you text me the other day and ask me if the Suns were trash, or did I text you during the
I'm very exposed on the Suns,
series. Yeah,
so I don't know. I'm very biased. Anything I say about the Suns, take a bit with a grain of salt, just because I got a bunch of futures in my pocket on the Suns. In a perfect world, I would get a Suns Bucks rematch and I would free roll some money.
Me too. Yeah, so I got Suns future and Bucks future. So
yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned on that. That'll be fun. But hey, man, what do you know? Mavs go home. They take care of business. Luka is unguardable, and then when you add guys shooting it the way they shot it in Game 4, it's a real tall task. From Dorian Finney-Smith, 8 of 12 from 3. Reggie Bullock, 2 of 5. Bertans, hello.
Davis.
Welcome to the season.
Davis.
4 of 6 from the 3.
He was at the bank. He was busy at the bank.
Yes.
He was busy at the bank. He had an appointment at Chase.
the private back room.
Like Mr. Bertans, to check on your accounts.
What do they call the Chase? It's like private client or
private client. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like in the back with the. Yep. Like, do you want a water?
Yeah,
I'll get you anything.
You don't bank with the regular folks. You go in the back. You sit down. They call you Mr. Bertans.
Yes, exactly. I mean, 23s in Game 4, 20 of 44.
Yep.
So that's where it gets a little spooky. But they took care of business at home, and in both games, the Suns get a 0 from Chris Paul. Chris Paul played the worst game I've ever seen him play the other night.
Yep.
A lot of the fouls were touch and go. Call them BS, call them whatever you want. It's still a lot of unnecessary bullshit from Chris trying to draw fouls in the backcourt, pushing the ball up the floor on Jalen Brunson, and they weren't going for that. They weren't calling those, and Paul had a terrible game, 23 minutes. He fouled out, had 5 points.
Yep.
So where does it go from here? I think they go back to Phoenix and take care of business, especially tonight. I think they take care of business. I actually probably might have to look into a little play. They're -6 at the moment, but I like Phoenix to get home and take care of business in a Game 5. And they win 2 of the next 3 with 2 of them being at home. What do you think?
So interesting, man. Look, if I'm Jason Kidd, he's been talking about this all series. If I'm Jason Kidd, it's pretty simple. I tell my team, first 2 games of this series, Luka scored 80 points. We lost by a combined 27. Next 2 games of the series, Luka scores a combined 52. We win by a combined 19. It's pretty simple, right? We can either sit around, watch Luka Doncic turn in amazing performances, go for 40, all be ooh and ah, and then lose at the end of the game. Or we can allow him to do his thing, but we step up, provide the support that we need to provide, hit our shots, look aggressive, play our roles, right? Alleviate some pressure off of him, and we win ball games. It's hard. You can't just sit and stand around and watch Luka, man. It's like Trey with the Hawks. It's like a lot of these other high usage guys, like the teammates will stand around, watch them do the show. Oh, he's got it. I'll just kind of wait for my pass. I'm not going to be aggressive. That shit doesn't work. They have to play their part, man. They cannot stand around and wait for Luka to do his thing while the whole time they're not getting in a rhythm, man. And for Luka has to recognize the importance of getting these guys in a rhythm. That's why I say, when I'm so heavy on LeBron recognized that early. We talk about, LeBron's not a scorer. First off, LeBron is a career 30-point per game scorer. He's not a scorer in there.
He's up there.
He's up
there for sure.
Is LeBron the scorer that he could be? No. Look, man, there's plenty of years LeBron could have went out there and averaged 40. In those Miami years when he was like a fucking Superman, he could have went out there and averaged 45 a night
36,
easy in his sleep. But LeBron recognized early how important it is to get these other guys going.
Chalmers.
Get them confidence. Yes, Chalmers. Norris Cole. Guys you couldn't even think of. Fucking Boobie Gibson from back in Cleveland. All these different guys, I got to get these guys going. I got to get them involved. sometimes to the detriment of my own scoring, but I know that we're going to be better for it when it matters, right? Because that way, when I look at them in a game 7 or a game 6 environment or any playoff environment for that matter, these guys have had their reps. They've gotten their shot ups. They've had their moment, right? Again, I could go out and give them 50 anytime I wanted, especially in my prime. Could literally just go score.
Turn it on, yeah.
In bunches. But it's not going to serve me come playoff time when I got to look around and see all these other guys. I think the last 2 games, and again, you hear it in Kid's press conferences, that's what he's been saying. He's like, look, Luka's great, guys. Yeah, Luka's great. But you know who understands the value of getting other guys involved? Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd is a point guard. He understands that. I'm sure he told Luka, man, we got to get these guys going, man. If Finney Smith is open in the corner, you got to feed him, man. You got to force it to Brunson. You got to force it to Bullock. You got to force it to some of these other guys, right? Like they have to get going because you can only take us so far, right? Like you had 45 in game 1 and we lost by 10. You know what I mean?
This is that classic spot where all the role players feel super comfortable at the crib. Dorian Finney-Smith, it comes off a little lighter in Dallas.
Sightline.
Danny Green, it comes off a little lighter in Philly. It feels a little better in Philly, like all those guys. But when it's a hostile environment, you just kind of look to it just kind of flows that way. Like, think about it. Like you said, you just laid it out perfectly for Luka. They're in a hostile environment. Luka ends up taking over and trying to get them tons of buckets. They lose. Jimmy Butler, hostile environment, looking around. Looks like no one else wants anything to do with this offensive end. I guess I'll go ahead and pour in 40. They lose. It's the same thing coming up here, I think, for Dallas and Phoenix. They're going to let Luka go ahead and score 40.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to lock up all these perimeter guys. And that's what's worked for them. And that's what worked for them in game 1 and 2. And then on top of that, you're telling me, I mean, I don't expect Chris Paul to have a insanely poor game as he did the last game. So that's why I think Phoenix wins. I think they get home and take care of business, at least in game 5. And then they put a lot of pressure. Then it's a closeout game. And it's a lot of pressure on Dallas to try to stay alive in game 6. So I'm interested to see how they come out. I'm interested to see how they deal with the perimeter scorers for Dallas.
Well, I think you made a great point. Like, yeah, and if you're Phoenix, if you're Monty Williams, you're like, yo, game 1 he had 45 and we won comfortably. I mean, it was a 7-point victory, but we won comfortably, right? Like, let them score. If that's what they want to do, go for it, man. Because then no one else gets involved, and Luka can't score 120 points, right? Like, at the end of the day, so if no one else gets involved, man, we can kind of hold this team down. And it's so I mean, I think that's the key for Dallas and to Phoenix. And yeah, to your point, like you can't expect Chris Paul to have another bad game, but hey, he's also going against a head coach that was a point guard, a heady point guard, just like he was. Yeah. And you saw some of the tricks that Dallas was doing last game. They got him fouled out. They got him into foul trouble. They were using some of the Chris Paul tricks on Chris Paul, right? Kind of giving him a taste of his own medicine. So like, when you kind of have this Jason Kidd, Chris Paul chess match that's going on is interesting as well. Like I've always loved Jason Kidd, man. I love the spilling the water on the court, the accidental shit. He's such a vet. He'll never stop being a vet. Like Jason Kidd just pulls vet moves all over town. So yeah, I do like that. I don't think it's as easy. You made it sound kind of easy for what Phoenix has had to do. And the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is other than game 2, like the last 2 years, Phoenix has just smacked people around. And they seem to have lost a bit of that.
Phoenix.
Yes. They seem to remember last year they were beating everybody by 20 points.
Yeah.
Just beating everybody by 20 points, right? Like they're not coming out and like imposing their will on teams like I feel like they did last year. Does that make sense?
Or in the regular season.
Yeah.
It's the playoffs.
And obviously the playoffs is more intense and you're playing against a good team, but still, I just feel like something with Phoenix when I watch them, I don't feel like I'm watching the same team from last year.
I would love to see Ayton get real busy tonight and get involved and give them a lot of issues in the paint and then spread it out a little bit for the rest of those guys. But yeah, I would let Luka go crazy.
Is Ayton a front runner? This is kind of hot take. I don't know if it's true, but is he like,
I think
it's going good. He looks real good.
I think he needs a lot of support.
Yeah.
Like he's not a guy that's gonna. Yeah, exactly. Like he needs to get the ball in good positions and put him in good spots to make a real impact. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Luka. Do we know if Scott Foster's going out to Phoenix? That'd be an interesting development as well. If they sent Scott Foster, like, oh yeah, oh it's 2-2.
We need Scott.
Scott, go ahead, send him out to Phoenix.
Scott, go make this right.
Chris Paul coming off 2 bad games.
Who do you have more issues with, Scott Foster or Jerome Boger?
I mean, this might sound crazy. I think overall, Scott does a lot, and he like inserts himself into the game and
like Joey Crawford.
And like makes does a lot of loud movements.
Teed up Tim Duncan from the bench.
But I think he is he's a good referee overall. I don't think I'm never looking at him like, man, this dude's out of control.
So you think Boger is out of control?
Yeah, I do.
you can't stand
if you guys
sounds like, hey, Boger's calling anything can happen.
If you guys don't know who we're talking about, Jerome Bogert is an NFL a fellow brother that is an NFL crew chief that seems like when his refereeing in NFL games, the crew, a lot of wild shit seems to happen. So
it takes a lot for Sean and I to slander any type of brother in any type of
I'm
position
showing
of power.
all love all the time.
you get an automatic pass.
A lot of sus shit happens when his crew is on a football game. Just know that.
Also, shout out our guy Danny. Yeah, it is a Tottenham jersey. We were talking about it in the beginning of the pod. Sean's an Arsenal fan. I'm a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, shout out Polska, man. He always rocks
Poland, with us,
man. Shout out the guy, man.
Shout out Lewandowski.
Yes, sir. All right, man. We'll leave it there. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. For Big Nick the Quick, I am your host, Sean Little. Make sure you subscribe everywhere, man. You know the deal. iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to pods, Google Podcasts, we're on there. Lock in with us, man. A lot more NBA coming up. We'll see y'all next week. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Let's get it.